Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario Nuri and Kirill Lazarov from Labs Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Labs Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Labs Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at labsproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show.
And we're live. So hi everyone. Today we got Dave from Foxal Media. Dave, how's it going, man?
Doing fantastic, man. How you guys doing?
Good. I love how you have
great.
a shirt with the logo on it and everything.
Felt right, you know? Choosing the shirts in the morning. What are we going to do? Well, easy choice.
I always go for like black shirts. But we've been talking about getting branded Labs or Creatives Grab Coffee shirts.
It's hard to find brands that all, one, are comfortable for everyone too. You know, that's the other thing. Or sometimes a lot of the time the shirts that you get that are decent, they have like their logos that are like really big. Or if you want to get just with your logo, it's usually not the best, especially if you need to buy in batches. You know, the classic Gildan tee is always
Gildan is awful, man.
It's the worst one.
The worst.
Dude, so hit or miss. Yeah, I feel you on that. These ones are like, all right. I think they're like Hanes or something, but yeah.
Hanes is just as bad as Gildan, man.
I really had high hopes because I spent a lot of time before getting these shirts, like finding the perfect t-shirt. Hanes Black Label came through, and then I ordered it from the website for like the printing company. Complete switch up. Felt like I'd been duped.
You know what I think the best way to do it is you buy your own type of shirt, like so from whatever retailer you like. I really love Reigning Champ, so I was thinking like we just buy a bunch of Reigning Champ stuff and then bring it to like a DTG provider and then just do it like that. I feel like that's the best way to do it, because if you go to someone that also provides the printing and the clothing, like the clothing always stinks, like the quality's terrible.
You know what I did was I waited till Adidas was having like their like blowout sales.
I bought
a bunch of like that year's like basic soccer jerseys, just white and black, and then I got like little patches printed up with our logo on it, and then I took them to a soccer shop. Buddy of mine worked at a soccer shop, and they like heat pressed them on and then just put media on the back. Like the player name.
Oh, yeah. That's clever.
I had like these.
I saw those photos on your website. I saw them. It looked good.
Dude, I was just like, I had this big vision for like this would be cool, you know. And like I even wanted to do more stuff to it, but I was like, let's just get this going. And dude, they always get compliments, and they're pretty comfy, and I got no complaints other than the fact that like if I had to do it again, I'd get them stitched because the heat eventually kind of like starts to fall off
it comes off, huh? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but like, hey, moral of the story is buy your own stuff, go get it made somewhere. I think it works out to be a little bit better.
Yeah. We lucked out with these hats because they had 47 brand as one of their I guess suppliers or whatever, clothing
Yeah.
suppliers, and they're pretty legit. I'm not gonna lie.
The hats look good. You guys
Thank
look
you.
good. If anyone's just listening right now and not watching, just picture this. They look good. All right.
Oh my God, first few compliments on the show. It took 5? How many? What are we at? 7
No,
episodes now?
no. Like public at this moment, I think we're at 64. But
Public, we're at 64.
this
but,
particular one, I think, is like might be 70 or something.
yeah.
Flattered to be the first.
You're flattered to flatter. Flattered to flatter.
Exactly.
It's funny. We had the similar idea where we were going to do the same thing with patches and put those on
That's right.
our own custom shirts. But there was also that same issue that you just ran into, which was, are we going to do the ones where you kind of just like press it on, or do you do stitching? But then you still have to go to someone to stitch it together, and it's like there's no perfect solution to merch nowadays.
I'm kind of against
thousands of dollars.
I'm kind of against the stitching, Kirill, because I notice like some shirts I have that have like an embroidery, like I find that sometimes it irritates my skin because like the stitching bit like goes through like the inner layer and whatnot. So
Yeah, I
maybe
think it
just heat
depends.
press is the best. Like
The
DTG
heat
or
press,
something.
I will say, like the heat
No,
press.
he had an
a lot
issue
of
with
them-
it. He was saying.
Well, a lot of them held up for a while, but like the vinyl lettering, like if I were to go over and do it again, here's the inside scoop for anybody that's trying to get, solid looking merch. You get like the vinyl heat press, like the heat transfer, the vinyl transfer stuff, because that's what the lettering is. The lettering's held up fantastic. It looks awesome. Then also you're not getting like the where the patch is like it comes off. It's kind of like bulky. You can feel it there a little bit. But if you just have like vinyl transfer all the way across, oh my God, it looks awesome. And I just wanted to mirror like what like professional sports teams were looking like, because I don't know, like how can we look a little bit different? Always trying to do something different. And all the pro teams now, they don't have stuff embroidered most of the time. They have it like directly printed on because that's the performance thing. And I'm like, look, if we're gonna be out there moving around, let's have that.
I might be mistaken, but I think the material you're using for the shirt also affects like how well it holds up, because I think if you use like polyester, it doesn't hold up that well, but if you use like 100% cotton, then it might integrate a little better. I might be wrong on this, but
the science sounds right. Let's make that a statement now. Yeah,
The
polyester will not
non-scientists
hold as
have
nicely.
the
You heard it here.
You should have done it like a shirt sponsor. You know how like all the soccer teams have like just giant letters right on like the center of the shirt. That's how you got
the game plan. That'll be the version 2 batch, because I have like a few different like specific offers and like different packages that we've kind of built out now too. That I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna like go get a sponsor. I'll just sponsor it myself and just put like the one is impossible to ignore. It's like short form content. I'm like, let me just put like the logo for that right across the center, and then like put something on the sleeve for like one of the other things. Like, screw it. Let's just, if we're gonna do it, let's lean all the way in and like blow it out. So we'll get there. But like you said, you want to do merch right. You want to like really do it right. You're just dumping money into it. And I'm like, there's a lot of other things that I really want to.
We got other stuff to be spending
money on.
we were thinking the same, and I made Carol hold off on the hats for a couple of years, because when I saw the initial price tag, I'm like, yo, $800. We don't need to spend this money right now.
Do we really need to order 30 hats right now? Do
I regret
know
waiting.
who to give them to?
I regret waiting that long though.
It took a while, but sometimes it also depends on the suppliers you find. Like there's so many different suppliers out there when it comes to merch, and you never know. The quality control is all over the place. And I found one that surprisingly is very close to where I live. So I went in person to kind of see some of the stuff in their process, and it seemed more legit. Stitchy Lizard. Those guys, they really came through for us. And one cool thing that they did for us was they gave us the option to choose different colors for the different hats. So even though you have a minimum of like 12 or 15 hats that you have to get, usually it's like 12 or 15 of the same color. But when he said like, oh, you can get like 3 blue, you can get 3 black or 4 red, it was like perfect. So then that gives us a bit of variety at the same time, but also forces us. So like Dario would get like 6 hats, I would get 6 hats, but a couple different colors. And see, that's what it is. It all comes down to suppliers as well. But we found that buying merch that it's like a one size fits all is usually the best bang for a buck. Either like mugs or hats. Shirts, it's a little bit harder to. It's really hard to kind of nail
those
down.
mugs still got to offload. I got a case of those things.
Yeah,
I got my old place. Like I don't even know where to put them.
Dude, it's
We
just
gotta give 'em out.
it's a client package. You just, if you're like, a lot of the time it's interesting because we're delivering like digital files, right? But a couple clients in the past year I've delivered hard drives because they bought the raw footage, and I'm like, all right, how can we make this a little bit more interesting here than just here's your WD like packaged thing, you know? So I would just buy like a little like a shirt box, put some like decorative stuffing in there, and then like I would double side tape like the hard drive box to the back, and then I put like just, I don't know, like Starbucks gift cards and stuff, just little things to be like, yo, thank you guys for choosing us. You've already got mugs. Give them a little mug, give them a little care package, give them the thing. Thanks for being our client. Boom! All of a sudden, they're drinking their coffee. They're thinking of you. We need more videos. That's what it does.
I'd love to see your like how you kind of like put it together, like in terms of like all the aspects of it, because yeah, like that is one other part of the whole client experience as well, is what happens when you finish a project with them. It varies from company to company. Like we've experimented, you know, obviously like with mugs, giving them, you know, because the mugs we got were really high quality, and we always got compliments on how like durable they are, because so many mugs nowadays they break so
I've been
easily.
using ours like daily for the past how many years? Like when was the last when did we buy them, Kirill? Like 4 years ago or so?
I think it was like something like 4 years ago, but yeah,
they hold up well. They hold up really well. If you don't put them in the dishwasher either, they don't scratch up, and like they still hold up.
Yeah. See, I've been, there's so many different merch things. Like this is the part of my brain, like I think everybody in this type of field has something that their brain defaults to, of just like their comfort zone. Like some people think about like creative edits or creative shots. Some people think more about like the business and marketing and branding side of it. My brain's always like, what cool different thing can we do to stand out? Because like before I did all of this, I worked with musicians and bands, and like in that world, there's so little budget most of the time. And so, especially with like where I was working, which was just local and regional bands. So you're trying to make something really awesome that people are going to care about with very little money usually, or very little resources. So it's like, we're not going to be able to do it better than the big guys, but we can do it different. Like there's a lot of guerrilla tactics and a lot of different things that you can, like creative spins on things that you can do. And you hear a lot of these, like 21 Pilots is a band that's been doing that for since the beginning of time. It's just like, let's like boots on the ground. Let's go be creative about how we market this. Let's go like interact with people. And so I'm always like reverting back to that way of thinking of like, what is something different that we can do that's going to have like way outsized return for the effort or time or money that's going to be put into it. And so even like I was talking about like with the shirts, I'm like, all right, every single production company or business has like the plain shirts with the logo, or they've got like the polos with the little embroidered thing there. I'm like, how can we do something different? Like that's where the whatchamacallits came in, soccer jerseys. And people are like, oh, I really like that. That's like totally different. I never see that. I'm like, that was the goal. Thank you. Thank you for that. I've gotten comments online, like I've put up behind the scenes on YouTube, and people are like, really interesting choice of like, we usually just wear all black on set. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to be invisible on set. Like I'm not there doing like this production where we're like not meant to be there at all. If we're there, we're meant to be there. Like I want you to know we're here. This is a production day. Like it's a big thing. Like let's get stoked about it. So I think it's just, when it even comes back to like the merch stuff and like the mugs and any of that type of stuff, I'm always trying to think of it of like, how can we do something that's going to make people go like, that was pretty cool. Like that was a little different. That was pretty cool.
I had a very similar idea like about a year and a half ago, where I was just kind of like writing notes and brainstorming ideas on different things for the business, and a soccer jersey uniform was something that I wanted to kind of explore, but I knew Dario wouldn't go for it. So I'm like, like Dario's he's not gonna wear that. So I'm like, oh, like what's the point?
You know what?
But
though?
it's nice to see that someone is good that's working now.
As soon as he was talking about that, I'm like, I wonder if Kirill brought it up in the past, and I was like, I wonder if I shot it down.
You
I like
probably
hearing
did.
it though.
Like,
I like hearing it though. We should probably implement that now.
Here's the thing, Dario. Sometimes, so this is actually funny. When you have a business partner, sometimes when you hear ideas from your own business partner, you accept it, but sometimes you're like, you need to sit on it, and then you need to hear it from someone else. And that is like one of the biggest things from Dario. Is like he needs to hear sometimes an idea.
Did you do the
from
same
someone else.
thing? You do the same thing. Don't even get started. Like I'll call him up and I'm like, yo, I had this idea. I'm pitching him on this idea, and then right away he's like going against it. I'm like, bro, just say yes. I just need you to say yes right now.
I think there's a thought experiment in there where it's like, what would happen if we did say yes? What would be the worst case scenario or the best case scenario?
We'd be millionaires by now.
Did this thing? There it is. Or the worst case scenario, you could be broke. So somewhere in between is the likely outcome.
I don't know. Though when you said the worst case is we get broke, like I don't know then.
I never had those kinds of ideas. Call Kirill up and say, let's put it all on Bitcoin.
Yeah. Hear me out. I know we're doing this video thing. However,
there's
like
a stock called GameStop.
Exactly. I like what you mentioned though about how the key with whatever you're doing within your business is not to look at what other people are doing and what the standard is, but not to be thinking from the perspective of I need to do that better, but I got to do it better for me. That is essentially what a lot of businesses need to kind of look at. It's like how will you do it different in a way that is more efficient for you as a business, that is more applicable, right? Because sometimes I find you see this with a lot of the bigger companies. They're always trying to like one up each other, based on what the other person is doing. But it's like, what is actually like the right approach for that business itself, right? And especially with us as smaller businesses, smaller, medium-sized businesses, every dollar goes a long way, right? Like, and you have to be very strategic about everything that you're putting your investment and energy into. And that's why it took us a while to invest in just something as simple as hats. Whereas like sometimes you see other people just drop so many, because like before these hats, for example, like I was looking and researching, it was really hard to find other suppliers. And then there was one supplier, I tested out something one year where we got like a couple hats, like 2 or 3 hats, which were okay. But then we noticed
they were pretty bad.
Good.
They were pretty bad, Kirill.
Like I said,
the bill
they were
was
okay.
like flat. I don't know.
See, flat bills, it depends on people.
No,
like
it was meant to be. It was meant to
be
be like curved, but it came like flat.
It came a little bit flatter,
like
yeah,
way flat, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's what scared me of like the whole hat idea. I was like, oh, if the whole batch is gonna be like this, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and then they like some of the hats were printed poorly as well,
Yeah.
and so like I complained. They sent some new ones, but we were like, okay, so we're gonna avoid this supplier. And then finally, we found another supplier that was a lot better. We found a hat that we both liked. That's the other thing. When you have a business partner, you got to make sure the stuff you guys are getting, you both like too, right? It's not like one person likes one thing and then the other person doesn't, right?
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about that right there, because you can take that. That's not an isolated experience right there. That's a universal experience to businesses across the board here. It's like, we had a bad experience with this supplier, and so now, whether you actively or kind of subconsciously think it, it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do hats. Like, is this how our experience is going to be with all merch suppliers? Are all hats going to be like not what we expected? Is the possibility to have the great hat we want even out there? And your brain starts to run with this, and it's so much harder to take that second chance again, because there's so much more of a perceived risk. And that's the same thing that happens with businesses. Like, it's such a different conversation when you're talking about selling video or doing a video project with someone who's never done it before in business and it's their first go at it, versus someone who's maybe hired someone before, had an experience they weren't thrilled about, and now they're finally back up to the saddle because they still want it to happen. They still want that outcome, but they know, like, this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it was. They have these objections, these hesitations, and these different consideration points. And if you can be the person or the business who understands that and knows how to address those things, and of course you can actually provide a better experience, you are in a way better spot than anybody else. So I mean, think about that. Like, what was it about the next company, or what was it about the company you finally went with, that after all those bad experiences made you go, Yeah, I think these are the guys we want to go with.
Yeah. Oh, so you're asking. So
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it briefly. I love how you were tying it into also like into the whole business side of things, with video production, because like everyone experiences similar things like that as well. But in terms of like what made us go with the newer company was the customer service aspect was actually a big thing. The constant communication, the willingness to talk, inviting. Actually, one thing that I think that I really liked was that they invited me to come over and see some of the merch that they had. They basically have a whole floor of all their products, and they have so many things, like things I wouldn't have even expected. Like aside from water bottles, they had like those like very high end type water bottles. They had like for people who want to get like their name on golf clubs or golf products and things like that. They had such a huge variety. And just kind of like seeing the products and feeling it, was one aspect. So again, it really depends on your business and what works to kind of help kind of get people comfortable with you. You have to figure out what that is for you as a business. And I think that's what they did really well. The willingness to kind of adjust and give us options, to kind of make the purchase a little bit better as well. Was great. So I think that customer service, and forward interaction was the main selling point. So that's what got us on board.
There it is. I think that's something that everybody's got to keep in mind. It's like, hey, Pete, not everyone's going to be ready to just throw money at you. You got to like meet them where they're at,
Yeah. And have you experienced something like that as well? Because you were talking about it, how like video production or like clients sometimes have a bad experience with a video production company and then come to us still needing video, but they're going to be a little bit more reserved. They're going to want to probably play it safe a little bit more. Like, is there any experience that kind of comes to mind where you kind of dealt with that? You don't have to say obviously company names or anything, but like more so the story.
Yeah. I think of actually a client that I'm working with now. It was a way more recent experience where it wasn't particularly video, but he had tried hiring or bringing on or tried working with a couple different people for marketing. So he's got this business. It's newer, and he's trying to get traction with it. And he's like, I feel like people have made these grand promises and then things haven't panned out, and I know I need to make this work. I know I need to try something, but I feel like everybody in the world of marketing, you bring something up and then they go and they turn and say, oh yeah, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go to those people because X, Y, Z. It's like, here's how we do it better. And I'll tell you right here, like, I'm never that guy. Like if somebody else does an approach that I don't necessarily agree with, I'm never going to badmouth that person. I'm just going to say, there's multiple different ways to approach project. That's not necessarily the way that I do it. I'd love to explain kind of how we would handle it. But, that was something that kind of stood out to him. Like the key points that made him choose to work with us for video content creation and marketing was the way the ideas were presented. Because, dude, you got to just ask questions and listen. Because if you're doing more of the talking in a conversation like that, discovery meeting or a sales meeting or whatever, you are not doing it right. Because it's like running a meeting with a doctor. If you walk in and the doctor keeps talking about all like his expertise and all the people he's helped and like lives he's transformed, and then he just says, okay, here's what we're going to do is we're going to give you this medication. He has no idea what the hell is even going on with you. All of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to go take these pills you prescribed me, and it's not even going to line up. So all of a sudden now, that's what other people do is they're like, you need to choose our solution here. On the flip side, it's like you said, that flexibility with the merch company where they were like, yeah, like tell us what you're looking for. We've got this, and this. Same type of thing. I'm talking to them and I'm just saying like, look, tell me your situation. What do you actually want to happen here? What if we're talking again in 12 months and we're celebrating? Why? What needs to have happened for you to consider this a success? And then if we can make something happen and based on what that situation is and the goals are there of the company and everything, and if I see that there's a way we can do something that might work, I'm going to talk about it. If not, I'm going to mention that too. And it's just honesty. It's just being honest and setting the expectations of what can or hopefully will happen reasonably, but also what could not happen, and then how to course correct. So we're doing monthly content creation and posting out organically, and I've had great experiences with that historically. So I described that situation and I said, look, if it doesn't go the way that we expect, what we do is at the end of the month, when we're getting ready for the next batch, we do a strategy session where we'll review what happens, we'll take note of that, and we'll change and tweak the game plan to course correct moving forward. So this is flexible, we'll make it work. And so all those things made it so that he was like, I like this, I feel good about it, I'm excited, let's go. Plus, social proof, testimonials, things like that. There's no one single lever, I think, that you can pull that's going to make someone go from skeptical to hell yes. It's having the wherewithal to know how to uncover those hesitations and then how to address them honestly.
There was an episode of... Oh, sorry, Kirill, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's also just like listening to your client, to the lead. Like sometimes they want to explain what their challenges are, and they want to make sure that you understand what their challenges are, what problems they're facing, because then if they know that you understand it, then they'll be more inclined to listen to your solution rather than, like you said, like, it's funny hearing you say about like a doctor. Imagine a doctor just saying like, oh, I went to this school, here's a pill. It's like, but I didn't tell you anything. How can you just, like, you lose the lead right then and there. Exactly.
There was an episode of Two Bobs I was listening to, and they were talking about how sometimes during the sale process you need to shut up and just let the lead do most of the talking, right? Because they were talking about how that seems to be a very big problem with salespeople, is that they just talk, and they're not listening. And they said something really interesting about how sometimes that might be due to the fact that the marketing side of the business hasn't done a good enough job. So the salesperson has to take on that role and like teach the lead about the company before they get into their process, which was really interesting. It was a really interesting episode. They also talked about how sometimes extroverts might be the wrong person for the job too, because they talk too much and they don't listen. So introverts might be better at the sales process because they're better at listening. But it's a really good episode.
I think it all comes back to control and dialing it in, because there's this kind of expected thing, or this expectation, right? That like extroverted people are going to be great salespeople because they can go and talk. And that's kind of just the established thing, when in reality, you shouldn't be doing all that talking. Like you just said, like the person who's talking more is what... So you ever
might talk themselves out of the room, basically.
Yeah. It's like, the Wolf of Wall Street is kind of an example of like, here's how not to do business, right? Yeah. Like, but in the beginning when he's doing that sales training, he's like, and whoever talks first loses. It's like such a shitty way to look at that, or crappy way to look at that. Sorry, but there is an element underneath that of truth where it's like, if you are. There's a power in silence, where if you're not talking, somebody else feels the need to fill that void. Just, it's human nature. And if that's the time where somebody's going to say things that are going to kind of hint at like, here's where my head's at. And so obviously in the movie they use it in like a very manipulative way, and that's not the goal. But if you were talking to somebody in a sales meeting, if you give that silence to like try and uncover a little bit more of like their problems in business, the things that are currently holding them back from achieving the goals that they're talking about, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable for people, so they might hesitate and hold back and not be fully honest. But if you just, as a salesperson, don't feel the need to talk through it, all of a sudden you give them that space to talk, and they're going to do it. They're going to fill that, because again, it's human nature. So that's kind of the balance there, is like, give people that space to actually just talk about why they're in the meeting. Someone books a meeting with you, they're there for a reason. Let them explain that.
Yeah, you got to just be asking enough questions to uncover if you're even a good fit, right? Trying to see what the problem is, can you be the solution for that, and then just go from there. But you can't, person asking the question, it's like when you have an interview, the interviewer's not doing most of the talking, and he shouldn't be. So it's weird when the balance is off like that. So it's the same process here.
Exactly.
One interesting thing I saw on your website was that you, what was it, specifically focused on blue collar businesses. Is that like a niche that you kind of have kind of gone into, or is that just kind of like one of your main markets that you kind of play in?
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say, the niche. It's the I always, whenever I have this conversation, I choose which one I'm gonna roll with. So for this conversation, I'm just gonna say niche. It's definitely the niche that we've focused in on and ended up in. It's with any niche, not like a linear path to get there, and it continues to develop. Like the current wording there is blue collar brands or blue collar businesses. A couple months from now, it may change to we work with contractors, or I use a lot of the time I say we work with home service businesses. So it's all the same. It's just which verbiage is going to resonate more with people, but it is roofers, painters, HVAC companies, things like that, residential home services.
Yeah, because most of the time when people ask, like, in what kind of businesses do you target, a lot of the time it's people either mention industries or kind of like they say medium size, large size, or small size businesses, which a lot of the time small to medium is kind of like the blue collar types. But using that wording, you're basically saying the same thing, but in a different way where like people can really understand it right there. As soon as I heard that, I completely understood what kind of video production you do, what kind of clients you work with. And I thought it was just very, very interesting to kind of see that. And I just wanted to understand kind of like how you kind of fell into that. And it's like, oh, like specifically blue collar workers, like why did you guys kind of like, or like, how did you guys get into that more so?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you immediately knew what it meant. That means it's working. Two, like I said, it's not a linear path to get there. I've talked to people before, and I've actually mentioned this in like some interviews before, where my experience with niching is that it's not just taking aim and running in that direction. It's like playing Battleship, where you don't know what the other side looks like, but you know somewhere over there is the battleship, and you start taking just guesses of where it is, and you're probably going to miss a lot until you get a hit. And that hit is where you're like, oh my God, okay, I'm close. And then you start taking guesses. You guess one over, it might not hit. Then you guess the other direction, and you might actually get the hit until eventually you've sunk the battleship. It's the same thing with niches. It's like, let's try this. I tried working with health and wellness for years early on, and I had some successes there. And then I pivoted out because it just wasn't clicking for me. And then, worked with a bunch of different businesses. And
what about it? Sorry to interrupt, but what about it wasn't clicking for you? Was it like the price ranges you were working with, or was it like just
for me? It was that it wasn't typically high ticket. A lot of the ways that I'd learned and developed kind of our strategies is that this works really well for businesses who are high ticket businesses. There's a big trust factor. A lot of the health and wellness, like there were some that were like exclusive types of training and things like that. But by and large, it's a high volume type of play where, okay, we're going to need a ton of people signing up, and it's more of an impulse decision for them. They're going to do a little bit of research, but that trust factor, that trust threshold isn't super high. So in that scenario, if somebody is more likely to impulse buy, the need for that company to have tons of video assets in place that are designed to convert and build trust, like all of that, is not as necessary. So one, it's not as easy of a sell. Two, it's harder to justify, because if you're pricing at, X thousands of dollars for a video or for a few videos, for someone in a high volume business to make that back, the return on investment, they might need to sell, 100 memberships or something like that. Whereas if you work with someone who's selling a roof replacement or something like that, or a home efficiency upgrade, that might make itself back in one sale. I'm not going to, make any bold statements about margins and things like that, but the difference there is like, yes, fitness has great underdog stories and it visually translates really well, which was my like best guess, taking the guess on the battleship of where it might be. But after, a while there, I kind of realized those things beneath the surface of the iceberg there that kind of make you realize, like, is this actually for me? And
right, so you were looking for a client that would provide a lot of repeat business and that would also have the funds to be able to bring you on for it, right?
Of course.
I mean, that's what we're always looking for in our industry, is like, how do we find repeat business? Because, yeah, the reality is that there are a lot of businesses out there which really only need a handful of videos in general. They're not, and when you think about it, not all companies are going to need video every month or every 2 months or every 3 months. Sometimes
most clients just once a year. Like,
or
that's the case with a lot of us.
A lot of the time it's like once a year. It really varies on not only the businesses that you're in, but also depending on their size, what departments you're working with. Because some departments literally only need one video. Yeah. And then other departments might need one. So maybe there's that where you can find repeat business within a company where different departments, you can help them out. But then sometimes organizations are also so big, so you might get it in with one department and you're doing once in a while, but then the other ones, they're working with other people depending on their goals and needs as well. So it's hard to also build those personal connections with bigger industries. And I guess the one big advantage that you have been able to uncover, and I'm also guessing, is that because you're working with a lot of blue collar businesses, you're also dealing directly with the owners, dealing directly with the business owners, and developing personal relationships with them, where you've become their video
go-to guy,
their video go-to guy. So whenever they're going to need some kind of explainer video, promo video, social media video, whatever it might be, over time, they're just going to keep coming to you because of that relationship you've built. And I guess that's why it's kind of like hit and sunk that battleship for you, right?
Yeah, dude, that's actually, it's a very good way to put it. And a lot of most of everything that you just said, like, checks the boxes. Yeah. I don't think there was anything that you said that didn't check a box. I just think there's other parts outside of that too that were like consideration factors, and some of them for me. One of the things with niching that I early on myself didn't really get, and I think a lot of people that don't think about, is that it's not just picking an industry or picking like a type of business. There's different ways to niche. It can be a specific type of focus of what you want to do. It can be a certain type of person, a certain, characteristics of an owner that you want to work with. And for me, early on, it was not necessarily an industry. Like, even before I focused in on fitness and wellness, I knew I wanted to be leading with video business cards or brand story videos, depending on what you call them. And I was like, this is what I want to be doing a lot of. And I just got good at it. And so I focused in on that. So even nowadays, there's really like 3 or 4 different types of videos that I really lead with. And if something is completely custom and outside of that, I probably won't take it on. So my niche has become, yes, blue collar businesses and home service businesses, but also, this grouping of videos. And then even further than that, this is what I've continued. You can always go further down the iceberg. I've probably to some degree been focusing in on this, home service, blue collar brands for about 2 years now at this point. And I keep continuing to find further specificity of who is the ideal client. Because in my experience now, it's not necessarily, the person who's been running the business for 30 years and they just get referrals at this point. Like, they don't need marketing. Maybe they need help hiring.
Yeah.
But that's a different type of thing. Whereas you have someone who's maybe newer to it, 5 years in maybe, so they're doing well, but they're also understanding that they could be doing better and that
they're still growing.
Grow this exactly. And they know, like, well, social media is kind of where we're at, or like websites. They're more receptive to this because they know there's runway ahead of them that they can still catch up to. So it's all those things that you mentioned and then some. And I think that's the key takeaway is like you will keep continuing to find more and more and more. I don't think we ever actually sink the battleship is the big thing.
When you were first trying to find your target market, like I'm wondering, were you actively doing outbound sales?
No, and truthfully, I do very little outbound sales. Like cold outbound has contributed very little to overall over the years I've been doing this.
So you just decided to pivot and then change your website up, did your SEO, and then just waited for them to come in?
It was pretty much every year or so I take stock of, okay, how did the last year go? What projects were the best? What ones weren't? What do I want to do more of? What do I not want to do again? What was the most profitable? What had the shortest time turnarounds? And about 2 years ago is when I looked and I took note and I went, wow, the projects that are like construction or, related to home services, whether at the time it was both residential and commercial, I was like, those projects were the most profitable, the most fun. The clients were the best. They were like awesome. Like they just clicked. And so that was kind of the beginning of the realization of like, there's something here. So for me, I probably spend too much time thinking, and like I've got papers all around of just, I need to like brain dump sometimes and think through things to make it make sense. And so I started stacking up this evidence for myself of like, okay, if I want to be the best video marketing company for this industry, what proof do I currently have to support that? And I started looking at the projects we did and then looking at like, where do we have testimonials and little sticky notes? And I started looking and I'm like, okay, there's traction here and I could definitely make this work. And then probably 6 months later, I updated the website. And then 6 months after that, I posted our new brand story videos, like focusing in on that. So it's been very behind the scenes, gradual for at least the first year of that kind of like rebrand, refocus. But it's all in the conversations. I talk to existing clients and say, or I would say at the time, we're shifting focus. I actually want to be working a lot more in this field and what we do here. Like, who else do you know that might benefit from this? I would go network with them to meet more people in those spaces, and just slowly started to shift my sphere of influence, if you'll call it that, so that the conversations I was having and the people I was getting in front of were more in line with the people that I wanted to be working with. So for me, it's always kind of taken that approach where it's like, where do I want at rest to be more, rather than having to like continuously throw spears and try and like, do the hunt, so to speak.
This is the classic example, that classic business saying where you have to build out your ideal customer profile where it actually works, especially in our industry. That is a big challenge that a lot of video production companies face, is they don't know who their ideal customer is, right? And it really is hard because sometimes it really is different almost every time. Like Dario and I think about the businesses that we've worked with over the last like 2 years, and there's such a spectrum in terms of industry size, product types, business. Did I say business size? Like, it's just such a huge variance that it's sometimes hard to narrow down for a lot of businesses. And it is sometimes a matter of like, oh, maybe you're getting a lot of certain kinds of video projects within a certain year. It's like, okay, maybe this might be something that.
But then next year might be different, though, right?
But then that's the thing. Then next year might be different. But the thing is, though, the one thing that, Dave, you've done right is you sat down and figured out what you wanted, and when you know what your customer profile is, that's what that's how you can start building out your content and your marketing to kind of attract more of those types of clients, right? Because then if you do more general video production outreach and marketing, you're going to get a general inflow of clients because they can see that you can do a little bit of everything depending on what is needed. But if you're focusing on one aspect, more of those clients you'll kind of start to attract. So it's also like that classic saying, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
In a way, but sometimes that's what you need to do to really figure out what you want to attract. And I think that's something that every video production company needs to sit down and figure out a little bit more of, is test out different industries and focus a little bit in different areas and see what sticks, see what you like. And
but most of us, Kirill, like most production companies are generalists, and I think we like being generalists in a way because we might have that short attention span. We like to see different things and everything. But I think what Dave's done is, what Dave's done, I would say, is probably in the minority, because not a lot of companies niche into a specific industry.
But
right?
they also can't. That's the other thing.
But I don't think they want to, because you're always, it's hard to do, and the risk is higher compared to just being able to do everything, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you go.
No. I was just gonna say, like, that's the challenge, is that how do you want to maybe like figure out what your ideal customer profile is, but where Dario's coming from is also what happens also when those other companies come to you. You know, like you're not going to turn down work. You want to make sure that you also.
I think what you're forgetting is like ideal customer profile for a lot of companies has like a $sign attached to it. It's not so much like an industry type. It's more so I want to only do projects that are minimum 10K and up, for example, right?
Yep.
It's not so much like I want to focus specifically on this industry.
Yeah, that's what a lot of companies do. That's for sure.
Especially once you get bigger, like the overhead gets higher, and you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm now managing a business. I have to think about this and that.
I think a lot of people they're not as intentional as maybe they should be with how they go about doing that, how they go about growing the business. And I think that's something that I'm definitely proud of, is that I've been able to kind of look at the common denominators across projects. Like when you were talking, one of the things I was thinking of, because you were saying, you know, you kind of get hit up by people about, if you do general stuff, you get hit up for general things. One of the things I'm proudest about is that now, from when I first started doing this to now, the number of posts that I get tagged in that are like, we're looking for someone to take some photos at our like birthday party, or like, can someone do like a music video for our band? The number of posts that I get tagged in for that type of stuff now has gone down to like 1 a year. Like, I don't get hit up about that stuff anymore, and I'm still grateful for people that think of me. But
how long ago did you start?
I registered the business in 2016, and I decided to go like all in 2018 when I graduated college.
Oh, okay.
And the main thing I think that has contributed to this niching here, or the niching versus the generalists, I think you've both got really good points. I do think some people don't have the desire to niche or to focus in. I think there's a joy that comes from exploring all different businesses. And I think maybe to another extent, it's that some of those people that say they don't want to niche because they enjoy the generalist aspect of it just don't have the business mindset to see how they could get so much more of those benefits of what they love from niching. What I mean by that is, full transparency, like, I'm not in love with video. Video is not the part of the business that I love. Like, shooting and editing, I enjoy it. I enjoy making something look cool. Editing, honestly, kind of the bane of my existence. But the part of it that I love is that communication, getting into someone's brain and their heart, and what makes them wake up and choose to do their business every single day, and talking with the people who genuinely have the passion for it. And there's people in all industries and all businesses that have that passion. But one of the ways that I've niched myself is not just the type of business or not the industry or not the type of project. It's also the type of person, the characteristics. There's this other, when I looked and I wrote out all the different projects, my points of contact, all these different aspects on a poster board. And I started to look at it in front of me and go, what are the common threads between the best projects here and the best clients here? And one of the things where it's people who typically have some former corporate experience or working for someone else. They weren't always entrepreneurs. They went out, maybe they've always had that spirit, but at some point in their life, they ventured off and they started their own thing. So they have the experience of working somewhere else and then choosing to go and do it themselves. And because of that, they have such passion about what they do and this fire inside them to make it work because they've been on the other side of it. And they realized, I'm going to do this my way, and I understand how I can do this better for me. And those people, when you work with those people, that's like the best thing in the world. And because I've narrowed down so much to blue collar and home services, it's so much easier for me to recognize and distinguish like who those people are and where they are, like faster than if I were to just work with a bunch of different people and then some clients are awesome because they're like that and some aren't, and then be left wondering why. So the more specific you can get about what you love about what you do, the more you can hone in and intentionally do that. I think that's what a lot of generalists miss.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you on that, where being able to do that can really add to your passion and energy going into it sometimes. Because, like sometimes when you're doing a little bit of everything, sometimes you might be very passionate about one video project, but then the next video project that comes through could be something like it'll be simple, but it's not something that you're going to be like, man, I really want to get out of bed in the morning to work on this, right?
I need to go do this.
Yeah, it's like I need to go do this to pay the bills. There's that aspect. But again, it really depends on everyone. Everyone is different. And one big challenge potentially also is, what is the scalability aspect as well? Because Dario was mentioning one aspect of like being able to work on a variety of different industries and just kind of working with bigger budgets, can also allow you to potentially scale the business over time. When you niche down, what has been your personal experience scaling the business now that you've done that? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be in terms of like business size, like by growing a team, but also in terms of volume or quality of work that you've been able to do.
This is something that's been very, very insanely top of mind lately, because I finally feel like the offer of what I'm leading with is very dialed in. I've always had, like, again, the 3 or 4 different types of projects, and I've had processes and frameworks for all of them. But what I'm doing now, really, really, I see how beneficial it is to have not just frameworks and workflows, but like standard operating procedures and templatized things. So for me, it's the scalability is coming into play where, okay, every month that I'm working with a client is another opportunity to rapidly iterate, take note, tweak, and then rapidly iterate. So for me, the upcoming scalability isn't just, okay, bring on more team, work with more people. It's, one, go deeper with the clients that I'm already working with, longer relationships, 2, dial in the system so well that I can work with people that, regardless of the location, and bring on people in these different regions or different markets, and basically say, here's the playbook, here's what I need you to do, just do that. Which is already kind of there. I've, over the past few years, I've connected with a lot of different videographers and video companies globally. I help run couple different like video communities on Facebook, and have been really fortunate to connect with a lot of awesome, talented, great people all over the place that I know. You know, I'm right outside Philadelphia, but if I got a client tomorrow in like Illinois or Texas, I know that I've got people I could hit up and immediately just not have to fly out there, and it would get done right. So continuing to further to hone in on that is really the focus now. But I would not have known that until I got very specific about what I'm doing and what I wanted to be doing.
So it's more so in terms of like you said, you've created like a playbook or system for your entire client process, from when they first call you to when you finally completed a project for them. You have a system where whoever you need to bring on, you can scale up and down depending on the volume of work at this point. You've just developed a system that's not necessarily foolproof is the right word to say, but it has a track record where it works. So have you kind of seen like a growth in terms of the number of clients that you've worked with, in terms of where you can potentially see yourself scaling it to a bigger team, like personally? Or are you kind of still trying to see how you can dial it in more, work with more companies? Like what's the next few steps for you in terms of growth or scalability?
Can we know how big your team is first? Like, is it?
Yeah.
On paper, again, everybody's got the on paper and then who they bring on board. Like on paper, it's just me. It's a single member LLC.
Right.
On operations, depending on the shoot, if it's something very simple, straightforward, I'll just go out. If I do have something that's a little bit more flushed out, typically have a crew of 3, where it's the same guys that I've been working with for years because I know they're great. We've basically come up together. We do coffee meetings to talk about our businesses and things like that. So got that aspect. Few other people sometimes will bring on a 4th, depending on what we need. And then I've got a couple different editors that I'll typically outsource to for projects that require that. A lot of the stuff I'm doing now is like batch short form, which I'm kind of doing because of just the quick turnaround. Also kind of dialing in some ways to kind of automate that a little bit more without taking the personality out of it. But that's kind of how the team looks right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's very nimble and flexible at this point. It's very similar to us and a lot of other video production companies.
Yeah, you just scale up and down with freelancers depending on the project. That's like most companies, to be honest.
Yeah.
With you.
And I don't think it makes sense for most people to grow to like huge bloated production company, because again, it introduces bloat. And if you have, the big contracts in a city, then it's guaranteed. Like, okay, we're gonna have this huge project annually coming on. Sure, makes sense, but I just think for the overwhelming majority of people, running it this way makes sense.
Absolutely. The thing I'm curious about though, because you've really dialed in your process and you really have figured out kind of who you're going after and how you want to like serve them. Do you foresee yourself potentially getting to a point where like a lot of these clients are coming to you that you feel like you need to bring on more of like a permanent team? Like obviously it doesn't have to be something like 10, 15, 20 people, but maybe having like a core 3 to 5 person group, which is really all you really need in our industry. Do you see yourself going in that direction? Or is it kind of like you still want to kind of keep it nimble?
I want to keep it as nimble as possible, because so here's where I'm at right now, and it's first time I'm kind of putting it out there, but I've been working on the back end to kind of test kind of passing out my systems to other people and say, use this, tell me how it works, let me know what I can improve. For example, my brother lives out of state. He's in a different market, different area. He's kind of pivoting out of a different career. He has experience in video and all things production. So he is now kind of pivoting into doing more of this type of work. And I've basically said, look, because he doesn't have a portfolio for what he wants to be doing, but he's got an insane level of skill set. So I said, look, just like use everything that I've tested and figured out, use my portfolio, use my marketing, use everything. And just, I know you can do it and I'll support you to do it. Just run with that. Let me know every step along the way what you notice also needs tweaking. So what I'm kind of building out now, the goal is to dial in the system so much even further and then license it. Almost like a franchise model where it says, look, you know how many people I've met through the communities that I've helped run over the years that they have the skills, the proficiency, they just need to channel that into a system and they would do great. And so, because I've put out courses over the years on my processes and things like that. I've never run ads to them. I never even like really market them that much just because that's never been my leading thing, right? It's just, hey, I know it helps people, so hell yeah. And they get insane, great feedback. So it kind of all clicked to be like, look, let's just keep dialing this in. I know that I don't love the shooting and editing. I love the communication aspect. I can play that support role for people that do love that aspect. That is the best case scenario for me. It allows me to make the most impact and also help other people like not have to work through 6 years of bullcrap trying to figure out what are the common threads. You know, if I could have $1 back for every hour that I've put into thinking and analyzing things to make it simple, I wouldn't have to do the next couple of shoots. But
have you thought about maybe like because if you do have it down to such a process and it's like step by step you can achieve it type of situation, why don't you just like open up another company in another city where you might have a big market in and just
Your
like
own
do your
franchise,
sales
basically.
do your own
Yeah.
sales remotely from Philadelphia and then just use freelancers to execute?
I've thought about that as well, but one of the key things for me is that I don't know necessarily the degree to which I want to be hands-on in operations. What I mean by that is like lifestyle design, you know, if you want to zoom out that far, I want to be able to unplug because right now it's nonstop. Like I'll be doing anything and my brain is in 30 different spots. It's like, what if I do this? How can I improve this? And so I think that introducing that further degree of actually hands-on running and executing things would inevitably lead me to then bring on project managers and then bring on, you know, more systems for my own operation of actually fulfillment. And it's just, that's not what I have at this point the interest in really fully developing. Because and full transparency, like I think anybody could take this and blow it up if you want to work nonstop and really like, you know, blow it up. You could do it. You could take the system and blow it up. But again, that's just like I want to be able to go and you know, take a beach day and not be like, shit, did I do that? Did I do this thing? Did I make sure that, you know? So, and one of the things too, again, that I've worked with a lot over the years is home service franchise companies. So I've been very familiar with the model of let's provide a system that people can plug into who want something of their own to run, but they don't want to have to go through all of that, start it up yourself. It's like, it's a lot of these former corporate guys and girls who they want to do their own thing. They don't want to have to figure it out. And so they just kind of pay to fast forward through it. And they have that continued support. And I've seen it firsthand and it works. And having gone through it in my own aspects with, you know, the courses and some different coaching things I've been involved with, it to me, it just makes sense. But that's kind of the grand test, right? Is like, let's see. Because if you test it and nothing works, then it's like, all right, maybe it wasn't.
It
as
could be that
cracked
the
up.
market. It could be that the market's not big enough either, right? Like, because again, even when it comes to like video, not a lot of us go into it, and not a lot of us will niche specifically into like blue collar work, for example, right? So you're targeting like a very specialized part of the market, right?
To clarify, the system, it's like I apply the system to blue collar.
But you can use it for anything else.
Oh, it's more general in terms of
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Because a lot of companies when they come up with this system is like they're going to figure out ways to like grow the business to in some way to be able to accommodate like if more scale is needed, right? And like Dario was mentioning, like what if, for example, you grew a core team of like say 5 people, maybe you have like you could start with like 2 or 3 with you in Philadelphia to help kind of be the core, but then hiring like 1 or 2 people in different states, where they're basically handling and like you said, project managing in those aspects. So you will maybe help sell, but maybe they will eventually can kind of take over.
Like you're doing like big picture stuff,
aspect
because
of it.
there's some companies I noticed when I was doing outreach for the show, like where they got offices in like 14 different places. Like they all got like producers running that production company, same production company, just in a different city. It seems like that's a natural progression of where you would be heading in based on what you're telling us. It's just strange to hear that you're like taking a step back and saying, no, I'll just sell a course for it, or like selling a license for it.
Well, to clarify, it's, the way that I see it is that there's a lot of those companies that grow those teams and they have multiple offices in multiple different places. I know some people that run that way too. And those operations, there's so much more overhead. Like the overhead of having a team that's built up that high is so high. So the pressure to consistently keep, adding fuel to the fire is so high. And just from the people that I know that operate that way and the levels of stress they have, to me is like, damn, that sucks. Like that does not seem desirable. And so I've always known I want to grow something, but I don't want it to be where if you take the foot off the gas at all, it's gonna fall apart. And so it's not necessarily. I think the issue that I see a lot with the flip side of it, right, the online education space, I've had beef with it for a long time, and it's one of the reasons that I don't really market my stuff or haven't for so long is because like how many times do you scroll through Instagram and you get like use this system, like are you a videographer
Master
under 10K?
Filmmaker, what's that one girl?
Masterclass filmmaker, $100,000 a year
Dude,
revenue.
There's so many, and like 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I was getting started, it was way less frequent.
Almost non-existent back then.
Yeah, dude, like I remember I was trying to figure out, again, I graduated college. I decided I'll never have this little responsibility again in my life. Let's give it a shot. I went to YouTube University, how to run a video business, like how to get clients. And there was like a couple people talking about it, and that's kind of where I naturally gravitated to. And since then, I mean, like the community I joined back then had like 700 members. By like a year and a half ago, it had like 7,000. So it's just the number of people in the space overall has grown tremendously, and it keeps growing, and it's crazy. And so many of these people who have come up and figured out, this is what worked for me. Everyone's got a sales course nowadays. Everyone's got their own process for like, here's how you start charging more. Here's how you start getting people on retainer. Here's the easiest way to get to a 10K month. And having seen the back end of a lot of these things, it's like, yeah, how much are you working though? Like it's dope if you have someone who's paying you $2,000 a month, $3,000, $5,000 a month. But like, are you reinventing the wheel every single time? And so that's always been the differentiating factor for me is like, look, my stuff is not a sales course. Like, if you want to go figure out how to sell, like, there's 100 options in the market for that. But if you want to know bulletproof, how am I going to go through every single step of the way? Like, how am I actually going to fulfill the stuff that I'm talking about? What are the ways that I am not just feeling like, how do I run this project? Here you go. Workbooks, resources, behind the scenes, like recordings, all this stuff, like philosophy on it, understanding, implementation resources. That's always been the route that I've taken, because you look at the market and it's the same old stuff. And when you hear from people, they go, I've been through so many other courses and yours is like nothing I've ever done. It's like, all right, maybe we're onto something here.
Listen, this is those guys, where you hear the same BS or like a different version of
20,000 a month.
Those guys are the financial gurus of our industry, okay? They're not making money from their clients. They're making their clients
Is you.
are us, video production companies, production professionals, the new starting videographer, where if you put in $500 for this course, you're going to learn
Every time I saw ads for that, I'm like, okay, if you actually knew how to make 30,000 a month, why on earth would you tell anyone else about it?
Well,
I would
so
just scale it from that point.
Here's what I've learned also, because I'm one of the most skeptical people like that I know. And so anytime I see that stuff, I'm like, come on now.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people in video that are making really good money and like doing really well and having $30,000 months. And some of them, here's where I think it kind of splits for me, is like some of them continue to do that and are like, okay, there's a way to now teach this also and help other people, and that's awesome. So like, let's do that. Whether it's as selfless as like, let's share knowledge, or even if it's, hey, there's another stream of revenue. Okay. But it's like still doing projects, still like running the show. For me, I see that like I got a buddy, Siebes Gerard is what you'll see him on the ads. He runs ads, but he's like very legitimately running the business and growing it and also teaching. And he's like, I just want partners. I want people to be able to bring on for projects that when we're not like in that space. I'm like, fair enough. There's also people who then are like, they made their money. They had a peak month where they hit a bunch, like a high revenue number, and then they're like, they start selling, where it's like, here's the system that I used to have like a 50 grand month, and it's like,
buy a camera, step one.
yeah, here's my affiliate link. So it's there's, I think it's a lot of reading between the lines in the space and just like looking into knowing who you're buying into, and regardless of who it is, you'll see testimonials praising them because they get people results. They help people. And at the end of the day, I used to, because I, again, said I've had a lot of beef with this whole internet coaching culture. If people's lives are being changed because they paid you money to learn something and they taught you and then you were able to implement it, at the end of the day, can I really hate on that? I can maybe hate on the way it's marketed and it feels gross, but if you're making an impact on people, it's the means to an end is how you advertise it, I guess.
But the thing is, it's like there's a lot of people that actually are helping, which a lot of what they're selling and pitching, a lot of that is accurate. It's like, like the biggest challenge for a lot of video production professionals is like, how do I get consistent work on a monthly basis? How do I ensure that I'm going to be busy 6 months down the line? Like, what systems are out there? And there are legitimate people and companies out there that are pitching that and providing a service that, like you said, are actually going to give you the value. Like, look, if you pay $500 for a course and something from that helps you make at least 2 times that, that's already a success in and of itself, right? If you at least take something that you've learned from that you've been able to implement in your business in any way, it's become worth it. The problem that a lot of us have, though, is that a lot of the bullshit artists are saying the exact same things and presenting it exactly the same as all those other people. So it kind of dilutes it, right? It's like, oh, like, yeah, man, I can't think of like an exact example, but it's like, you know, like, yeah, it sounds great what you're doing, but all these other people are saying that they can do the exact same thing, when it was like, who do I believe at this point, right?
Yeah.
Especially for people jumping into the industry, because for a lot of us in this industry where we've been in it for a while, we can tell who the bullshit artists are, and we know who is actually providing some kind of value, because we've also been in the industry. We know what we're missing in our businesses. We know what skill sets we want to improve a little bit more, so we know what to look for.
But we'd have to go through the course to find out if it's bullshit or not.
But sometimes, yeah, but sometimes that is
you don't know who it
aspect.
is until you go through their course.
Isn't that the? It's the full circle where we talked like we've been burned by somebody in the past. You know,
Yeah.
I bought hats and they sucked, and then I was nervous to buy hats again. It's the
Yeah,
same.
You gotta
We're
you gotta
back to
go
the
through
hats.
it.
You gotta buy the hat first though to find out.
So someone's got to be the guinea pig. You know, that's what this industry is. Someone has to be the guinea pig. You know, and
I'm
that's why.
proud to say I've never been the guinea pig for a course though.
Yeah, Well, that's the other thing.
But I am curious about your course. You got to send it over. I want to check it out.
Yeah, dude, I'll just give you access, because like here's the thing, it's if there's so many people who are like they stop doing video and they just shift into courses, and part of me is like, fair enough, respect the hustle. For me, like the courses have never been my like main source of income. It's like I'll see something come in and I'll be like, oh cool, hell yeah, and then I'll email or message the person and be like, hey, thanks, hope that you love it, like let me know if you have any questions and like I'll be sure to get back to you. Like for me, that's actually what I was just gonna say. It's like I've never been the guinea pig. It's like, well, nobody should have to pay like crazy amounts to like be a guinea pig. Like anytime that I've put something new out, I've been like, hey, I'm looking just for a small group of people. The first time I ever did it, I was like, I think I charged like $150, and I was like, you'll have the course, but also I oversold the hell out of it. I was like, you'll get, or I over
Over-delivered.
Like, you'll get,
Over-delivered.
I was like, you'll get 4 weeks of individual calls and also a group call every week, and like all this stuff. Like, dude, I was just like, I just want to make sure this is great. And then the next one I did, I was like, no charge. I was like, I just want people to come in and test this stuff and make sure that it works.
Yeah.
So like, that's the thing. If you were just launching out into the world and you saw it from someone else, you're like, all right, I could charge $5,000 and put this offer out there. I need guinea pigs. It's like, dude, come on.
No, that's
like,
yeah.
test your shit.
It's like when you're starting in the industry as a videographer or as a video production professional. The very first videos you're charging, you're not going to be able to charge $5,000-10,000 per video. The very first video that I made money on, I charged like $100-150, and that was like the system for many months. It's like, all right, I'm just going to learn and experiment and try new things. I'm just going to do a very flat rate with everyone I work with, something very small. You'll still charge something because, you know, you want there to be an exchange of value, because that's how a business relationship actually works. It's very different than like saying, I'll just do a video for free. Then that's a completely different relationship you're dealing with. Start with a small charge, like super small. It's like $150, and just learn. Try new things, make mistakes, and learn how to improve, because then you also learn how to deal with clients. You learn how to run a business. There's a lot of things you can learn from that. And then over time, you increase the price and everything like that. So the exact same thing as you mentioned, right? You got to test the waters in some way.
You know, at the beginning of the year, I just remembered this. I pitched Kirill on creating our own course, but we were gonna just do it free. And like the whole purpose of the course was actually to find out how to improve our process, because I was like, we have a process, but it hasn't been put like down to paper yet. So I was like, this would be a good way to force us to put it on paper, and then we would look at it and maybe get feedback on it and see where we would improve. But with anything else in our business, it always got like sideswiped to the back end of our TDL. But I think that's kind of what you're doing, right? Like you created like a course, and
but it's just
you were
your
trying to
system.
get feedback on it because you're just trying to get feedback on your own business, essentially, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's there's multiple layers to it because it's like, so for example, to give some context to it, like the most recent course that I dove into and then still kind of a continuous process of building out, but it's for testimonials, and it's my just 5-part framework for like testimonials that are designed to kick ass. It's called SCORE. So it's story, catalyst, obstacle, result, and then engage. It sounds so simple,
Nice.
right? It's like, but there's just layers to it, and there's so much more in like the understanding of like social proof and the psychology of like what gets people to click. What is like the natural storytelling progression of if I make a recommendation on something to you, there's a framework on how that typically goes. And so it's just kind of like a deep dive into that. It's something I've run with for years, but I was like, okay, I know this works for me. People have asked me about it. I've told them about it. They've loved it. Let's finally like put it into play. And so when I was just getting people to test it, it was mainly like, look, I know this works for me. I'm not necessarily, I even told people, I'm like, look, when I look for your feedback, it's not necessarily on the actual framework itself, because like I know it's solid. It's on the way that I present it and the supporting things around it to make it make sense to you, and also make you feel comfortable enough to start using it and selling projects on it and things like that. So it's not like, hey, I'm trying to figure out this part of my business. Why don't you guys give me your time and money so I can figure it out? I think that's kind of, I don't know, not great.
well, it's like the way you're going about it is definitely, it's a unique one to you, right? Like everyone sometimes needs feedback on their systems and their approach from like outside perspective, because you never know. And like, and here's the other thing. What people need to realize is that the system is going to constantly be improving. You're never done figuring out your system, right? And like, there's always other factors. Like I'm just even like lately, like in terms of like some of the recent projects that we've worked on, I've realized like, oh, okay, like there have been these challenges kind of coming up a little bit in post-production when dealing with editors. I think I want to take on a couple projects on my end to do some of the editing, just to kind of figure out how we can improve it. Like where can we save time? Where can we adjust it? Is it beneficial to do a complete handoff to an editor and have them do the whole process? Or like, for example, one production company that I've worked with, like he runs a wedding business, and the way he deals with all the production of his wedding videos, he has editors cut everything together, do a final-ish edit, and then his whole process is that he goes through each edit himself and he puts his own stamp of approval, or he does the editing himself to add it to like his system's approach. And when he told me about that process, it got me really thinking a little bit more like, oh, maybe this is something that we need to kind of think about a little bit more in our whole process. Like maybe, yeah, like editing is a completely time intensive process, right? And a lot of it has to do with just getting it to like the first or second draft a lot of the time, right? Getting all the footage organized, getting everything kind of cut together with the music. But sometimes what really adds the spark of a business is like, having your own input, right? So systems have to improve. You have to think of like, how can you elevate your business, in terms of like changing things up constantly. Daria, like I was just mentioning to Dave how, like through our conversation with some recent projects, it's gotten me thinking a little bit more about how to improve the post-production side of things, for example, with us in our business. And yeah, maybe that is something I want to try, where we get editors to do most of the stuff, and then I will just kind of take over, and then just the little things and little swaps and stuff like that and kind of minor improvements, maybe that is the way to kind of help smooth over the process and also make it more efficient for the client, right?
Yeah, that would be
Again, it all depends on the projects you're working on, the clients you're working with, but there is no, I'm finally done with my process. That's the system. Like even when you have yours fully packaged, Dave, and ready to go for other people to work, you're going to be like, oh, I figured this out. Like, let me change this up.
It still changes, dude. Like that's one of the things that I actually have on the one course landing page is like, this continues to improve. Like the first one I put out has been out for like 2 years, a little over 2 years at this point. People, like, tons of great feedback, and I still am like, hey, there are things that I continue to improve upon with my own process, with the resources here. Like, expect there to be updates. Like, you know, I think that's something that a lot of people don't get to, is like somebody will just package something together and be like, all right, cool, free money, I don't need to ever touch it again. It's like, I don't know. I feel like if you're in education, you have a duty to set people up for success as best as possible. Like, I think that's the other thing too, and I want to pivot back to the continuing improvement of the process thing, but that's like, I just genuinely love teaching. You know, there's that saying like, oh, those who can't do teach. It's like, no, those who can do so well that they have such an understanding of the individual building block pieces of what they're doing, those are the ones that are in the best position to teach. It's like, those who can do really well and understand it, and then also understand how somebody else who doesn't understand that yet needs to be taught that, teach. Like, well, there's a process there, you know.
Sometimes sometimes teaching others can actually help you learn, or like remember and retain things a little bit better as well. Yeah. And like that was something that was always recommended when we were in like university or something. Like, sometimes show someone else a whole process or teach them something, and then that way you'll be like, oh, that also makes more sense to me because of explaining it to someone. Sometimes that's just what it is. And funny thing though is that anytime someone says those who can't do teach, immediately my mind goes to those who can't teach gym. Shout out to anyone who knows where that's from.
Yeah. Do you know that the problem we have with a lot of the people that offer courses, or, you know, that stuff, it's not so much the teaching aspect. I just realized what it is. It's the fact that they're promising something, because they're always saying you can get this much a month. You will get this much a month, stuff like that. I think that's where the main issue comes in. It's that they're promising something.
Promising results that are unrealistic is the biggest red flag for a lot of these. Like, there's very few courses out there where you can just, where they'll tell you like, this is what you're going to learn from it, and you're going to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. They're not saying like you're going to earn. I think
they're pulling a Jordan Belfort. That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
otherwise,
I think the problem is like, once you start attaching dollar values to what you're promising, that's when things get a little bit more sketchy. I think being more upfront and honest, it's like, these things will help you improve in your business. I don't know how much. It really varies. And that's the thing that people need to drive the point home, is that your business is unique to you. What worked for me might work for me, but that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily going to work for you. So this is why it's always tricky when it comes to selling systems or processes or things like that, because we all have very different circumstances that you can't really provide a one-size-fits-all solution all the time, right?
Exactly.
And the funny thing is that Dario and I have really solidified this by doing this podcast, because we've talked to so many different companies, and almost everyone has had a completely different approach with how they've gone into the business. There's like small things that are consistent between everybody, but there's no like A to Z of pre-production, production, post-production, sales, and delivery that you're 100% going to be successful like me if you just do that. It's never been like that.
That's like my main qualm with a lot of books that offer that kind of stuff. So not just like, forget the courses that people are offering, but just like books in general, because it's always like they mention, oh, I did this and that to get to where I am, and you can do the same, but they forget to mention that, you know, their dad was a billionaire, or like they were given, you know, their uncle was like an executive at this big ass company. I gave him all these contracts. They forget to mention all that stuff. Like, it's
with a small touch of generational wealth and a bit of nepotism, you too can
Silver
find
spoon.
the success. Dude, it's you hit the nail on the head. That's the thing, is like, that's always been my beef with systems too, is like so many courses and programs are like, if you follow just follow the system, just do this to a T, and you'll get the success. We guarantee it. And they're even like, we'll give you your money back if you do all the steps and it doesn't work.
No, they're not.
And my thing has always been like, yeah, I mean,
has
my
anyone
thing
gotten
is,
their money back? I'm curious.
Yeah, if you've ever gotten your money back, drop it in the chat.
Comment.
Yeah. I would actually like to know. Did they actually?
But that's the thing is, for me, I mean, if it hasn't come through at this point yet, I'm like, I always need to do things a little bit different. I want to do things my own way with a unique stamp of approval. And for me, I was like, I don't want to just plug into an exact system. Like I've gone through, because I've bought my fair share of like courses and stuff too, and there's one that I won't name that is a very, very, very popular, long-standing one that I bought into, and it was just like a bloated course with too much information, and it was just tons of stuff, and it was like follow these exact steps, and it wasn't relevant to me or how I do life, or how I approach business. And I'm like, okay, maybe I could, scale to like, 50 grand months or whatever the hell it is if I did this, but I don't want to. And so that's why it's been very, very utmost importance for any of the courses that I've created. The whole beginning, like I typically break it into like 3 or 4 like modules, if you will, like sections. The first one of everything is like understanding, like why do we do this? Why does this work? Because if you just jump right into the here's what to do, here's how to run this type of project, it means nothing. You need to be able to have an understanding of the core like building blocks, because everybody runs something different. The way you guys run business is different than the way I do, is different than the way the next guest will. And so if you can have that base level understanding of like, look, here's my framework for this, but also that's where most of the thought process goes, is like, how do I make this make sense to everybody? If you can boil it down to the core concepts, those are the things that are present in every business. So you can begin to understand, how does this make sense in what I do? How does this come to life in the way that I run my business, in the way that I think about things? Because it's not just saying, just do this differently. It's here's when you're doing the things that you do, here's maybe a different way to think about it that you might not have before. And then it's on you to integrate it how you want into what you do. Because if you just say, here's the playbook, go, it's not a right fit for everybody, and they're not going to get the success.
The funny thing is, it's like, when you think about it though, sometimes though people are also, they might think something, they can't buy into it unless they're going to get some kind of result out of it, right? It's kind of like those classic business sayings where it's like, you need to identify your target market, you need to understand your niche, you need to do this. Like a lot of these concepts and principles, they are very general. But the thing that people don't realize is that you won't understand them and learn them unless you really are able to figure out personally. Yeah, unless you're in it and you figure out personally how to apply it to your business. Because so many times, as you've been running a business for a while, you figure out how these concepts really apply to you and why they make sense and why they're so valuable. So it's going to be very hard to charge money for a system or course where it tells you like, you have to be doing pre-production for your business. You have to do a script. You have to do a storyboard. You have to do this. Okay, great. Yeah, that's general. But it's like, you have to understand why those will help you more. Like, yeah, exactly. But go to YouTube for that. So it's like, this is why courses have been inflated to the point where a lot of them are selling it from the perspective of like, here are the results you're going to get, because people feel like they need to get something out of something always, right? Which is understandable. Anytime you buy into something, anytime you buy into a business, you want to feel like you're getting something out of it. If you just give them with a lot of general principles, general business practices, that they could probably find somewhere else, it's like it's going to be hard to sell that. So there's like a fine balance, a little bit of like kind of what you got to find that will work. And unfortunately, the bullshit artists, they're really driving home the dollar value outcomes that will come from buying their courses, because that's what people respond to, especially people just jumping into this. Like imagine you're a filmmaker just jumping into the industry now, and then you're thinking, oh, like I need to get like $5,000-$10,000 a month, just to kind of stay afloat. Boom, you Google that, you're gonna find all those guys selling you. So,
yep, dude, it's not a sexy
tough.
sell talking about like you're gonna get an understanding of like the frameworks and like to clarify too. The stuff that I put, it dives very deep into the things. It's like, okay, here's the understanding of the. Like, it's not like you need to do pre-production. It's like, hey, here's the psychology of why a client will be in a certain position and why they might want to, why they'd be open to having a conversation about buying this particular type of video. And like, here's what they're expecting, like all that type of stuff. That's not a sexy sell to be like, I can't guarantee, I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to like make a certain amount of money off this. Like, but if this is a type of project that you're interested in doing, and maybe you've already gone through like the sales programs and all that type of stuff, which there's a lot of good ones out there, this is going to make your life significantly easier. So that like the social proof does a lot of the heavy lifting to,
yeah.
I never want to be the one to like brag and be like, this is going to be life changing. Ball's in your court on that. But when you have, testimonials from people going like, I feel like I was lost in the woods before this, and then Dave came along with a map and a flashlight and like helped me find my way out. It's like, all right, well, that's cool. Or someone being like, yeah, I took what I know and I like closed 2 deals the first week after going through the course. It's like, all right, that wasn't the intention, that wasn't the goal, but like it equipped you to do that, and that's cool. So that's like, that's integrity is one of the most important things to me with all of this. And you will never see me being the dude that's like, yeah, here's the grand promise, here's all the money you're going to make and everything like that. Like in the communities and groups that I help run, people will ask about the types of projects that are like directly relevant to the courses I have. I won't even mention them. I don't want to be that guy that's like, dude, you really need to go through this course,
Yeah.
But then other people bring it up and tag it, and I'm like, I guess I'm doing something right. Like, that's cool. So, and that's not as profitable to do it that way, but that's, when you're a Instagram course seller, that's, you want to blow it up as much as you can. So you're going to make the bold claims, I guess,
I think if we get any dislikes on this episode, we'll know who it's from.
Yeah. People that don't want to buy into something sexy.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But
okay,
I think that's a good point to leave it at. But
oh my Lord.
Dave, I know, like this conversation went, like Dario had to take a little quick bathroom break at one point, and I'm already.
Oh, I couldn't take it, bro. Like
too.
10 minutes into it, I was like, I think I need to go, but I'm like, let me hold out. I was like, it'll be an hour, right? Hour 20 minutes. I'm like, oh my god, I'm dying.
Damn.
But Dave, thank you so much for chatting with us and
where can people find your course?
DaveLisowski.com. There's or DaveLisowski.com/courses. I don't even have like specific landing pages. I have to make the page and then I'll send it to you. So
okay,
shows how little I promote my own stuff, right?
But otherwise, it's foxalmedia.com.
Foxalmedia.com.
Foxal.
Yep,
How did you come up with that name, Foxal?
The short story is, the long story is that I had way too much time when I was first starting the business, so I could think about it. But the short story is it's basically an English translation of my last name. Lisowski means of foxes, and this kind of means of fox.
So, nice. Really? Okay,
that's cool.
Yeah,
because
the long story's for another time.
Okay,
another time. Yeah.
Someone in your family must have like had to do with foxes or something, like fox hunts or something.
It means somewhere far back in Polish cultural stuff, we descended from like somewhat royalty, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But none of us in recent generations have seen that type of wealth.
Nice.
Okay, right. Perfect. All right, well, thank you so much, Dave.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Labs Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by...
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group band packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We're more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.